kakurut. Amegonga kichwa kakurut na hii backbone. Serikali iingilie, itusaidie tu, haki hatuna pesa. Hata tumetumwa huko supermarket tukanunue container za kupima huko kwa Ramboro, tayari tumekosa hiyo 100 peke yake. Jua hatuna hata pesa, tuna hata wazazi. Niko na uchungu mingi sana juu ya mtoto wetu.
A situation not so different from this other two families.
Matokeo inaonyesha wanasema ilikuwa ni sharp object, kitu iliingia hapa na ikapita hivi. Ikakuza moyo. Na sasa ilikuwa excessive bleeding. Tumeshindwa sasa tutaanzia wapi kusafirisha mwili nini yote. Hatujapata ripoti yote kutoka kwa serikali. Hiyo ni kama tumeachiwa sisi wenyewe, ambayo ni mzigo mgumu sana.
Mimi nataka tu niende nizike mtoto wangu, lakini ile problem niko nayo ni moja. Sina namna ya kwenda kumzika juu sina pesa.
In Kajiado and Mombasa County, several other families have also been left hopeless.
Mtoto wangu ako 12 years old. Asienda maandamano. Hata kama ni nusu ya risasi, hata kama ni harufu ya risasi, mtoto wangu hana hatia. Risasi ni kuwa mwizi, sio mtoto.
Meanwhile, IPO has been challenged to come out and clear the uncertainty behind the exact figure of those who lost their lives during the anti-finance bill protest. So far, human rights bodies have documented 23 deaths, 34 disappearances and 271 injuries during the anti-finance bill protest.
Bado tunaendelea, as you clearly can see, people, they usually post people who have disappeared, but then watu wakirudi, they don't really update. So we take some of the recordings. Up to now, I think we had around 34 in total. But when you post someone is missing, you try to follow up. Sometimes unaambiwa amepatikana. So we are still working on the list. It is not final.
Sasa ni jukumu la IPOA kufanya documentation, kufanya investigation na kuhakikisha kwamba hawa watu wamekuwa prosecuted. Because ni nani ambao watafanya polisi wajibike kama si IPOA?
Milia Kisenya, K24 TV.
Former Nandi Hills Member of Parliament Alfred Keter has refuted claims that his dramatic arrest was a result of his failure to honor summons by the police. Keter further narrated how the question of his relationship with Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and former President Uhuru Kenyatta emerged during questioning. The former Nandi Hills MP has been released unconditionally, with the opposition castigating the government over the alleged return of the hit squad.
If the police summon Linus Kaikai and Linus Kaikai refuses to go to the police, are the police not entitled to come and look for you? When the police come to arrest you after they have summoned you and you didn't show up, is that an abduction?
This is the response the head of state gave yesterday after being put to task to explain on the abduction of former Nandi Hills Member of Parliament Alfred Keter. However, in a turn of events, the former Member of Parliament has brushed off President William Ruto's sentiments, saying he was never summoned over any matter that warranted his abduction.
I was not arrested, I was abducted. There were no summons. I was never summoned. The first time I got to understand that I had issues to which they wanted to level against me, or they're raising allegations, is when I got here. I didn't know. They were on a private car with a private number plate, wearing on civilian, with masks. So you could not discriminate, or you cannot differentiate between the criminals and the DCI officers.
Narrating his abduction deal after presenting himself to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, Keter has claimed that the state is accusing him of association with an armed deal, of further questioning his relationship with the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua.
And they were beating me up, trying to say that you've been against government. And then the questions that I was asked, one of it is my relationship with the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, and my relationship with the current deputy president. And then issues to do with arms from Congo. I think it is a movie. Don't intimidate us into silence. We know the issue is about, we are raising issues concerning the concerned by the many Kenyans.
The opposition has to this end also accused the government of initiating hit squads that are said to be carrying abductions that have since been on the rise after the anti-tax demos.
We are aware that there are still a number of Kenyans, very many Kenyans who are still missing. When we have asked the DCI officers here, they have told us that it is not them who took these people. So, despite the promises that were made by Ruto during the campaign, he is still maintaining police hit squads, people who are not even known to the police. And they are the ones conducting these abductions. At least for Alfred Keter, there were people there to film it. And that is why he is still safe here.
Even after this stance,
I made 3 commitments that I will make sure the police is independent. And I did that on my first day in office. Number 2, I said there will be no extrajudicial killing in Kenya. I have kept my promise. Number 3, I have told you that if there is any arrest by the police, that does not amount to an abduction.
The abductions seem to continue, with the latest victim being Paul Wambui alias Gigi, who according to LSK President Faith Othiembo through his social media page X says he was kidnapped at 5 a.m. today in Githurai, but was later found with head injuries dumped in Resembo. Bentura Kwamboka, K24 TV.
Meanwhile, all eyes on President William Ruto and the police over how they will conduct themselves as Gen Z protesters prepare to lead another round of protests today. During the Sunday media interview, President William Ruto affirmed that the military will only be deployed if protests turn violent. The DCI, on the other hand, is sounding a warning to those taking advantage of the protests to loot, even as it availed CCTV footage of those who carried out massive looting within the CBD last week. And as Martin Opio reports, President Ruto has since agreed to host a digital X space conversation with the youth on Thursday.
Immediately after the roundtable meeting with the media on Sunday night, President Ruto hosted another group of youngsters, the digital content creators.
My very good sons and daughters,
The president agreed to have a conversation with the youths over the X Spaces on Thursday, even as he beseeched the Gen Z to keep calm and have the interests of the country at heart.
We've agreed with some of your colleagues here that maybe Thursday, Friday, I will be thoroughly clear. And I want you to be equally clear on what you think, the suggestions you have on how to take our country forward. My request to you is that we have a country to keep. It's the only home we have. We must do whatever it is that we do within the parameters of the law, respecting one another and talking to each other with respect, so that we can move forward together as a country. I am looking forward to this engagement in the space that you will recommend. I'm told X is the space that you want us to engage. And I have committed that I will find myself into that space. I will ask one of you guys in that space to host us so that we can have this conversation, as I do what I must do to get the country moving forward.
But nonetheless, the Gen Zs are not relenting and are set to go back to the streets on Tuesday and Thursday in another round of anti-government protests. Their protests will be coinciding with the historic Sabasaba weekend. On Tuesday, the Gen Z who are expected to take to the streets have a different strategy where they will print out banners and t-shirts with the names of the fallen colleagues through the bullet. President Ruto has promised that the police will restrain themselves, including keeping the military away from the protests, except when they turn violent. All eyes will be on the head of state following the Sunday night interview.
Be even. You know, we must be even. The police have a difficult job. They have to make sure the peaceful demonstrators are protected. But they also must make sure
that the criminals, and when you say criminals, you know, when I said the other day criminals, many people took offense that I was calling the demonstrators criminals. That's not.
We cannot call ourselves a democracy when in all the 47 counties, the military will be deployed tomorrow, even perhaps already deployed, and we call ourselves a democracy.
The DCI says it is on high alert ahead of the protest, with the investigative agency warning those taking advantage of the demos to loot businesses that their time is nigh. On Monday, the DCI released CCTV videos which they claimed were taken during the protest by persons taking advantage of the protest. In the videos, the group of youths are seen breaking into shops before enjoying themselves with looted goods. The DCI wants the public to flush them out as they go on with their protest. In Eldoret, at least 15 suspects were paraded at the High Court, with Kapsaret Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi listed as a complainant in the case where businesses linked to the legislator were looted, in addition to the charges over mayhem witnessed in Eldoret.
Ripoti hii ikuweza kupewa siku 21 niweze kukaa na hawa washukiwa ni kukamilisha shughuli wangu ambao bado sijakamilisha.
Your Honor, I implore you to reject and to dismiss this application for the reason that these young and women before this honorable court were arrested because of picketing and not because of any other reason.
Martin Opio, K24 TV, Nairobi.
The Ministry of Health yesterday kicked off the Social Health Insurance Fund, which was rolled out with countrywide registration beginning. Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumicha says all Kenyans must register to benefit from SHIF. This even as civil servants are set to continue enjoying the existing NHIF contributions until the transition to SHIF is complete, as Robbie Omondi now reports.
Starting today, every Kenyan contributing to the Social Health Insurance Fund will have access to affordable healthcare services. This is according to Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumicha, who says that the new health scheme will repeal NHIF and begin offering services to Kenyans.
Therefore, the existing NHIF contributions and benefits will continue until we roll over to Social Health Authority.
Kenyans will be required to dial a USSD *147# or log in to www.sha.go.ke or by visiting the designated National Health Insurance Fund offices and other registration points for self-registration.
We posted the tariffs for public participation. The report has been received, and in the course of next week, we shall be doing a national validation exercise, after which we shall be able to gazette the tariffs that will be used.
The ministry has assured that the registration process will be free and community health promoters will also be available to assist.
I want to give assurance to all Kenyans, and in particular, those who have been enjoying healthcare services under the National Health Insurance Fund, that they will not be denied any services during this rollout phase.
However, Kenyans say they still have little or no idea about the cover.
Mambo ya kukatwa na registration pia tunafaa tujue ile ya kwanza registration ilikuwa ni ngapi, hii ya pili registration ni ngapi. Na pia percentage ya kukatwa ile ya kwanza ilikuwa ni ngapi na hii ya pili pia ni ngapi.
Hatuwezi kuingia kwa kitu ambao hatujui sisi, labda umeingia na kumbe kitu ambao itakuletea madhara.
To this end, they are calling upon the Ministry of Health to conduct awareness campaigns to ensure Kenyans are informed on what they are signing up to.
Uongozwa na waziri wetu wa health Nakumicha atusikize, isije tukawa tumreject hii pia. Tufanyiwe civic education, tujue ni nini, ina umuhimu gani, ina maana gani, inaifanya nini kwetu sisi wananchi.
Robbie Omondi, K24.
A Kenyan, Kennedy Wanyanga, has moved to court seeking clarification by not taking chances on whether President William Ruto has legal capacity to withdraw the Finance Bill of 2024, with fears that the bill would automatically become an act on the 11th of July. This even as Azimio members of the Budget, Finance and Debt Committee fault Ruto's plans to borrow 1 trillion Kenyan shillings to finance the budget after withdrawing the finance bill. Here's K24's Joel Chacha on alternatives the president has after finding himself in an economic quagmire.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Good, thank you. Speaking during an interview with media houses on Sunday evening, President William Ruto hinted on his alternatives following the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024 due to public pressure.
This year, we are going to borrow 1 trillion shillings to be able to run our government. That's what it means. I have been working very hard to pull Kenya out of a debt trap.
However, members of the Finance and Budget Committees of the National Assembly are now faulting their plan to borrow more as the country is grappling with a huge public debt.
There's an act that should take precedence as things are. Ruto, they should ensure that that budget is reduced to around 3 trillion. We don't need a budget of 3.9 trillion if we can't manage it. 23-24, they only managed to collect 2.3 trillion, which means that we are running this country on a deficit. So therefore, we don't need a budget of 3.9 trillion. So these unconstitutional offices must be done away with. Members of Parliament, I don't support the fact that members of Parliament should be traveling. We should remain here in Kenya and sort all our problems here.
So an option of going again to come up with another finance bill is time-barred. It's time-barred. It should be done before 30th of June.
The Vice Chair of the Debt and Privatization Committee, Dr. Makali Mulu, now says any plans to borrow more will need Parliament approval and amendments to the debt management strategy.
Let him stop cheating to Kenyans. And now he wants to put fear into our lives. Because now, there's a document called medium-term debt strategy, which our Committee of Public Debt and Privatization approved. That's the document which approved the borrowing levels. It means if they have to come back to Parliament, there's a revision of the medium-term debt strategy.
Economic pundits also argue that there is need for the parliamentary committees to have a meeting with the National Treasury to formulate the way forward.
The reason why KRA has never met its target is there is such a big disconnect in terms of the process of budgeting, bringing everything into law, and implementation. It means that KRA has not been able to implement everything that has been said because some of them are not feasible. You know, the other disconnect I see, Chacha, is the way people do business in Kenya. Is there a research to know that by the time you are going to tax this sector, that this is actually what goes on and it is justifiable to tax, or are we taxing just to meet targets or just to be seen to be meeting targets?
There is need to have a meeting, a joint meeting between Finance and National Planning Committee and Budget and Appropriation Committee and Treasury. We sit down and see on areas that need to be touched by the supplies.
Meanwhile, in what happens not to take chances with different interpretations of the law, a Kenyan Kennedy Wanyanga has moved to the courts seeking interpretation of whether President Ruto can legally withdraw a money bill. He fears that come 11th this month, the finance bill could automatically become an act, leading to public rage and more demonstrations. Joel Chacha, K24 TV, Nairobi.
Now, President William Ruto has yet again clarified that a prior intelligence report helped the government control mass demonstrations last week that turned violent. In his widely televised interview with media stations, the president said it was a delicate balance for him to protect protesters and property amid violence and looting. This comes amid the High Court's certification yesterday as urgent of the case against Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua following his remarks against the National Intelligence Service. Here's Timothy Simwa with that report.
While he may have been reluctant to comment directly on the remarks by his deputy that indicted the National Intelligence Agency, President William Ruto believes Tuesday, June 25th mass protests were handled well. In the aftermath of the protests, DP Rigathi Gachagua laid blame on the National Intelligence Service, But his boss says he was forced to take drastic measures acting on prior information.
I did my best. If I hadn't done what I did, things would have been much worse. In fact, many people ask me, Mr. President, why did you call in the army? I mean, what choice did I have?
Ruto says the damage would have been worse had he not intervened in time. The NIS and its director, Nurdin Haji, found themselves on the receiving end of the DP as he delivered a damning assessment of their performance.
We have a dysfunctional National Intelligence Service that has exposed the president, the government, and the people of Kenya.
Following these remarks, activist Frederick Bikeri moved to court to sue the DP for undermining the intelligence body.
Had the National Intelligence Service briefed the president 2 months ago about how the people of Kenya feel about the Finance Bill 2024, so many Kenyans would not have died. Property would not have been destroyed. Offices would not have been touched. There would have been no mayhem.
Today, the High Court has certified the case as urgent, with the mention set for July 15th, even as the president and his deputy serving the same government continue to see issues of national importance from different lenses. Timothy Simwa, K24 TV.
Meanwhile, Kenyans continue to express mixed reactions following President William Ruto's Sunday night interview, with a section accusing him of failing to listen to the voice of the people, while others urge him to step aside. In the meantime, business people within the Nairobi Central Business District are calling on youth to halt their demos as the president has softened his stance. They are urging normalcy to return so that they can continue with their businesses.
Na hata akiulizwa kama leo umefanyia maendeleo gani wa Kenya, anajibu kuambia kumaanisha kwamba mwaka ujao itakuwa siasa za mchakato wa vyama unaanza, ndio itakao ni mwelekeo wa siasa. Kwa hivyo maendeleo ni mwaka huu.
Sisi shida yetu maandamano ni aondoke kitini, sio eti tunamtaka atuondolee ile katiba alikuwa anaweka tuitaki. Yeye mwenyewe ndo atumtaki.
Na hiyo mwanzo ile kitu kinaniuma ni hii ya kuwa mwananchi hausishwi. Wanafanya vile wanataka hapo bungeni. Hiyo ndio kitu kinaniuma.
Wewe sasa hauna touch anymore. Resign. Resign kama rais, uwe na amani.
Na kwetu tu ni kuomba president sahi, this is a very sensitive time. Sisi tuko katika hali ya maombolezaji kama mashirika kutetea haki za kibinadamu. Tunaomba tu ya kwamba matamshi yoyote yanayozungumzwa na kiongozi yoyote yawe ni matamshi ambayo yataleta uwiano.
So tulikuwa naomba kwa kulingana na vile president aliongea na like jana vile aliongea, president ameomba kuongea na wananchi. Hasa hii hao watu ambao ni wa group ya Gen Z wampe nafasi ya kumsikiza, because the issue here ilikuwa ni kupewa sikio na serikali.
Calling upon you people to give him time, listen also to him as much as he has listened to you, and give him time to at least do a number of things that you are calling on.
That report brings us to a break on New Dawn. When we come back, a look at us making headlines on the dailies on the second day of July, but also a reminder of the conversation we'll be having at the top of the hour. We'll be speaking to Principal Secretary, State Department for MSMEs Development, Susan Mangeni, on opportunities for the youth within the SME sector as Kenya gears up to join the rest of the world in celebrating World Youth Skills Day. Do speak to us on your expectations on this conversation, your expectations as a young person in the MSME sector as well. Our hashtag is New Dawn. Speak to us on X at K24 TV. Just stay with us.